Cresswell, welcome. Hello, and it's coming back to Britain's Hidden History Live, episode number 106. No way, and they said it would never last. Take it away, Leon. It's got a bit sort of funky tonight. We have a little bit extra music on today, with a couple of requests coming up. What was that one called that you're playing, Arnie? Devil in Georgia or something like that? Oh, I've given it away now. I was going to ask people to recognise it. With a load of requests around Malachid, a bit of that later. Oh my god, let's pack my books away. Some last minute research going on there. Loads to cover, loads of videos, some great shots of scenery. And the main subject, we'll come to that in a second. So good evening, Marchell, first off the mark tonight. Sorry I was a bit late getting the trailer up, but there we go. Good evening, Marchell, good evening, Brad, Gavin Lloyd. King Arthur Conspiracy, book 1 done. Congratulations, yes. I think next, I was going to do a whole section from that book. There's a couple of people saying I haven't quite finished book 1, can you hang on a bit? And I thought it'd be best to hang on. Oh, there's so much to talk about in that book, so I think we'll do it next week, okay? So thank you. Hello, John Griffiths. I hope you all saw the work John's doing this week, put a video up. Actually shot a while ago, but the translating the Colburn's really coming on, that's really looking good. Hope you're going to sing for us. Hey, thanks, Brad. I noticed the figures have been going up and up for viewers, so I spent time I sang again, and we stopped that, alright? This is a very private little group. We don't want loads of people coming in. Good evening, Gary Taylor, good to see you there. Graham King, been lovely to see you. Graham's been down in Wales, so we did a bit of filming. Thank you, Leon. Does it have a name for any of that? What's that?
Yes.
Oh, it's Sonic again. Sonic has become our theme tune, is it? How very intellectual, eh? Oh, you like it? Well, people seem to like it. Why not, isn't it? There we go.
Bye.
A Hart, I think that's Paul. Will be on and off this today, but send my best. Oh, I see. I think he means right. Yeah, because Paul's all the way over in California, where I imagine it's like midday or something. And he'd be running around doing other things. Mandy McCord, super researcher. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Right, okay, loads of people. Wow, we've got a record number of people online waiting to go. Just say a few more lows while people log on. Myrig, Emmanuel, David Church, Cole. Almost ready, another day, and I'll be ready. All right, yes, because Cole's been sending me information. We're going to do an interview as well. Classic Sonic. Yes, thank you. We even got that kind of funky sound effects now, isn't it? Right, okay. Now we've got so many things to cover tonight. I'm trying to remember where we're going to start. There's tons of things. Right, and I'm going to do just quickly, just to show, because some we haven't seen on the channel for a while. And I think if you're watching live tonight, and I haven't seen his name come up yet, is Robert Pierce, Lego. And what we're doing there is a quick update on what's been happening with Caerau site. Actually, let's just do a quick run through what we're going to do this evening. So we got updates from various sites. So Caerau, which means castles, which is a key part of King Arthur's Baden campaign, Battle of Baden, with Baden being a place not too far from me, it's not that close, but near my stag. There's a place called Baden. It's still on the map, and you can still see the ramparts, the burial mounds, and yet no one knows where the Battle of Baden is. Well, just up the Llanthony Valley from it, near my stag, there's a place called Caerau, which is a multi-ringed hill fort. And Keith Price, John Pitcher, and Lego doing a lot of work looking at that and how it ties in with the Baden campaign. How it's a really, really important site. And it's another one which can be built over, and they've already started the work, rather tragically. So, show a little bit about that, and then a few other things to show. And the main discussion we're going to do, a really interesting, I think it was last week, started talking about Breton and the link with Breton language and the Breton people. And I had wonderful news. This is when it's coming together to work all these things out and share information, not sort of keep it secret. This is what makes it work, all right? Because then someone called Xavi, I've got a son called Xavi, there you go. Someone called Xavier, who is a Breton and speaks the Breton language, been in touch and sent me loads of information about that, which I'm going to look at. And he had some good questions as well, which I think, with the help of this group, we can answer and tie it all in together. And then we'll see how that ties in with Basque and Corsican. You'll see this pattern repeating itself with the smaller cultures and that are really getting pushed out. It's not just a British thing. There's lots of smaller languages, smaller cultures being pushed out. And you can see how that ties in. And it also, of course, all ties back in with this King Arthur conspiracy, where you can see on there, I think it's chapter 3, where it talks about these subjects. And when this sort of history went in, and then disappeared again. So there you go. So that's so thank you, Xavier, for that. Really very interesting to read the information you sent, and I'm going to go through some of it. Okay. Who else is on board? Melon. Oh, I think that's a new name. Hello, Melon. Chris Wood. Obviously, you can see Chris. Niall Murray. And I don't know how you pronounce that. Evixi. Alan Rees.
It's Roman, Dad.
It's Roman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roman.
What?
Ivexi.
Oh, is that Roman?
Yeah.
How do you mean it's Roman?
Because that's his name on all his social medias.
Oh, all right. Ivixi. That's your name in Roman. Roman? That could be Roman. I don't know. Ah, you kids, eh? The Cornish anthem is the same tune as the Welsh anthem as well as the Breton anthem. Well, thank you, Alan. I didn't know that. And you have reminded me, you've got your sword here. Can you pull the sword out, please? It's one of the things I'm just going to talk about very, very quickly. These are one of the swords Alan made. He made, I think it's 4 altogether. So we've got one which I think one of these, they come in a beautiful box. So one of these is going to be a present for Alan on his 90th. That's all booked up now. So I could squeeze a couple more in if you want to come along. Just to remind you, Alan Wilson, who's one of the main person who's kept our history alive from, as I always say, it was hanging on by its fingernails before he lifted it back up and put it back on public viewing. And it says, say, welcome here. If you are new to the channel, and there's new people joining all the time, you're very welcome. What we're looking at is the fact that the history we're taught in school, as you're probably aware, history is always changing. There's a big rewrite going on at the moment, which anyone will have noticed. It's very open. No one's hiding it. Our history is being reframed. It's being rewritten. Our past is being changed. New history books are coming out. So some people think it's pretty shocking. Some think it's good. That's not really for what we discuss here. What we do look at is the fact this has happened before. And the big one that really affects Britain was around the coup of 1688, where the old British royal family was kicked out. Then we had eventually ended up with Hanoverians, very unpopular. And while royal families all around Europe had their heads chopped off, and we got the American Revolution and this general antipathy towards monarchies, and they felt very nervous, and probably rightly so. And so the old part of the reason to pop them up to get rid of the old British history and invent a new version of history, things like Anglo-Saxon invasions, Celts, British barbarism. Let's talk about Romans and Greeks and all this kind of thing. Okay, so we're trying to go back before that, peel it back, and see what was being hidden. Okay. Right, the tune for the national anthem, supposedly a traditional air applied to a set of words written in the 18th century. The Breton and Welsh words look a lot like a translation. Why do I know? I mean, I've thought being a Pontypridd boy. I just check in. I have got my notes. Yes, this is the notes here. Hang on. Yes, I actually got some notes this week. I never have notes normally. Just to make sure I do cover the points I say I'm going to. As far as I'm concerned, the Welsh anthem was written by Evan James and his son James James from Pontypridd. That's what I thought. Oh, another thing we've been up to do. Oh, I was going to put that clip up tonight. Let's put a note up. Thank you. And I wish I could remember the name. Someone wrote a comment telling me how to make the rocking stone rock. Because we were trying to do it with our hands and pushing it and it didn't work. You can make the rocking stone in Pontypridd rock, and we were up there yesterday, I think, making it rock, and we filmed that as well. So I can look that up there. Okay, so got some nice clips to show. The weather's been pretty good this week, so I've been out a lot filming, so not as many videos posted, although there's a lot ready to go. Alrighty then, let's crack on with some of this. Oh no, I got me that blinking Sonic tune in my head now. Right, so there we go. Right, this picture I want to show you here, and I will show a little video clip in a second, is when we're talking about I don't go on this too long, but when they're putting the turbines up, one of the things which people, well, may be aware of it if they watch this channel, they might not be aware of it, is the fact that these roads need to be put in because these are really heavy, especially the new ones, which are going to be 200 metres over 2 football pitches. The ones you see in places like Llanthony Abbey are 70 metres. They're bad enough. The new ones are going to be triple that. They really are going to be quite scary. So we've done a music video, which will be out this week. Thank you to Deborah, help on the editing there. And if you look, you can see what's happened here. This is a mound. All right, this was continuous. And to make it work, they can only go so steep because of the heavy trucks carrying these very heavy loads of the columns and the rotor blades. So it has to be a wide, sweeping corner. The larger ones will be even more of a shallow angle. And then to make it less steep, they'll just cut through wherever necessary. So the mound is photograph taken on has been cut through to make this road. And then this kind of turning area and road is cut through the other one. So tragically, it's going to be a lot more of that going on. And that's the Eglwysig we were looking at in particular. Right, I got to think now quickly. Hang on, this should be all queued up ready. Oh, mine's got blank a second then. I'm going to talk amongst yourselves. I have this ready to go. 106, where are you? Alright, I'll have to come back to that in a second. Oh, sorry. I did have it queued up. Is it on the thing already? Oh, it is queued up. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I was better than I thought. Alright, so I'm going to rewind. Sorry, it was already queued up. Okay, these shows are live, just so you're aware. So I'm just going to go back a little bit. So you can watch a little bit of this film. This is taken from Llanthony Abbey, which is the hill, the other side of where St. Peter's Church is. And you can see where these 70-metre ones were put in. Here's the track coming up from Gaelic side.
It's the path coming up, of course, for the cranes and stuff. It's an ancient path, it's been widened. And I'm standing on what we think is a burial mound. And you can see it's actually been cut through to make the road we just showed you. So that's hardcore on there, these stone tracks. And, stunning views up here. It's very difficult to get a shot which doesn't have a turbine on it. There you are, just to give you an idea. There's the 7 down there. What a beautiful spot.
Just pause again. You can see this has all been cut through here as well. You can see it cut through. So when we're trying to work out where the burial mounds are and historical sites, because at Llanthony Abbey, I mean, this should be a sacred site. This is where the ancient British, one of the places where the ancient, well, definitely where the High Kings of Glamorgan were buried. You got Caerau, which I'm more or less filming from. You can see the sort of marshy ground, sort of back left from this camera angle. And that's where Meirig would have been buried at some point, and Caerau, and all those ones probably from around about 100 BC through to maybe 100 AD. A lot of them would be buried up there. We've been doing a lot of research. We've got quite a good reason to believe there's a lot of famous people buried up there. King Arthur II himself, King of Glamorgan and Gwent, he is also said to be buried up there. And we've got a pretty good idea where that is from the research we've done. And I've also been given a stack of Alan and Tony, or Alan and Barham, give me a load more pictures and stuff, some of which give more clues around here, exactly where the burial site of Arthur is. But the point is, it's another really important site. Now, Bob Morgan, you might see, well, you do see a lot on this channel, you'll know for this channel. He was a surveyor, and he actually worked in the wind farm industry. He was one of the surveyors and scouting out the land, all the sort of stuff he now does for Britain's in history. So he's a top pro. And one of the issues he had was that these roads were getting very close to the burial mounds, and we're going to plough through them. And all he was suggesting was a little manoeuvre, just go round rather than through. And that couldn't be done. So that's why he resigned and left in protest. Okay, so well done him for having some principles.
Hope you enjoyed that and found it in.
Yeah, sorry, this is an old video. It's already up. You can see. I'll show you a little bit more.
Do a pan. Little pan around and see.
Loads of windmills. This is going to be a competition I was going to do here. And it's going to be in one pan. How many windmills can you count? It really is vast. God, look beautiful. That
Wind
picture,
turbines, can you see in this one short pan, eh? It's just... Wales produces twice as much renewable energy as it consumes already. And it's just getting going, folks. It's just getting going.
Yeah, so all that is on what we call sacred ground, really. It's the ancient burial sites of the kings. It's also, rather tragically, there's a monument used to be there, a pile of stones as the high point. And that was the monument to the fallen soldiers, Money the Millware, I think it is in Welsh. And that used to be on the maps, and that's disappeared off the maps, and the monument is gone. The trig point is still there, so it's still on your OS maps, but now you have the trig point remembered rather than historic monument. It used to be just a little bit up, well, if you imagine you're holding the camera behind you and up the hill a bit, up the Caerau direction. So it's going on and it's picking up speed. I mean, it's happening at an alarmingly fast rate now. All these things are being rushed through, and as just mentioned in there, Wales already produces far more renewable energy than it's ever going to use, and it's about to double or triple its capacity. So what is going on there? What is going on there? Absolute... I don't know, it's just... it's not rhetorical when I say what's going on there. It really is. What's going on there? It seems to be just an opportunity to make vast sums of money. All right, so... yeah, we're going to have a couple more videos tonight because keep things bright. Right, now here's one. Oops, sorry. Just make sure you can see that. This was a fun one, and I think this is Dean Morgan sent me this. I do apologise to someone else. I like to always attribute people. It's important, all right? Share the work, give credit where it's due, all right? This is what it's all about. And as I always say, I really don't care who finds anything, whether it's up on Senghenydd or a story, whose name is on it, doesn't matter in my view at all. We just got to do it. And we're against the clock now. This isn't just musings and fun academic work, because these sites are being destroyed rapidly. So here's another fascinating one, which I'd like to know more about. I've done my own research. That's a very YouTubey thing to say, isn't it? But I'd like to get updates, because this is older information, and Dean is trying very hard to get more information. He's got hold of an archaeologist involved in this. This is what I want to show it as an example of what you can do from your own armchair. We've got, with the stuff we're doing about the Senghenydd, that petition hasn't gone up yet. I am apologise. It'll be up in the next few days. There's someone from Australia helping with that. We've got another project being done from America. You can do a lot of this from your own chair on your computer, using things like Google Maps and Google, and looking for, I keep using Google, and the search engines, finding stories, and pass the word and get involved. You've got online things. I've got another online thing here tonight you can fill in for CADW. So this one's a fascinating one. All right, so I have to try and be clever now. I've got to find all the stories, haven't I? I'm going to do it the hard way. Sorry, I sometimes have a little snooze just to let you know secret before the show starts. So when I wake up, then I feel full of bright, and I'm good to go. Only about 5 minutes or something, and didn't seem to wake up very well this time. Right, so here we go. Right, okay. So what happened here? They're building this estate called Parc Glyndŵr. Ironic. You got Glyndŵr. Owen Glyndŵr, of course, is only visits to South Wales to come and burn the place down usually and destroy people. And his ancient enemy was pretty much Monmouth and Gwent. But hey, there you go. They call it Owen Parc Glyndŵr. At least it's got a Welsh name on it. So what's happened here? Right, so I'll just read it out. In 2012, a dig conducted by the Monmouth Archaeological Society, who I'd like to hear, well, they're like an amateur group, and you'll see the difference. This is why we have to do something, all right? We can't just watch things go by. Monmouth Archaeological Society, all right? Which seems to be an amateur body. I hope they're still going. I'd love to talk to them. They found remains described as the foundations of a massive log house. More recently, it was announced that this was evidence of Bronze Age boat building. And I think that's where we get into the Robert Langdon stuff. You can search his name. He's also got some new research coming out. I'm going to do another interview with Robert soon. And let you know about his new book and his new work. More mind-blowing stuff. What a clever guy he is. So this would have been a large prehistoric lake. Metre-wide trenches or channels were found over a mound of burnt earth, which has been carbon dated to the Bronze Age, or whatever that means, and however they carbon date it. Anyway, it's very old. And other finds around the area date back to the Stone Age and through to Roman times. Is that before the Stone Age? The site has been discovered in association with the development of the Park Lindure housing estate, located on the old Croft de Bula country house and farm. The location given is approximate for the site. I can't find the exact location. I think, tragically, it's now under houses. And one of the things I quite enjoyed about this is it's Bronze Age. So I'll give you a rough idea where it is. I think this map gives you anyway, there's the 7. Actually, that can't be the 7 because this is into England here. That's where my family's from. We're going back hundreds of years. Cinderford, round there. Michael Dean. This is Forester Dean. Lydney. This is Gloucester. Ross on Wye, my ancestral home. Not really. It says Monmouth under there. So, anyway, so we're just into Monmouth. So it's just over the Welsh border in this instance. So you've got nearby sites, which is interesting. All the links are in the description before the show started. I did get that done, okay? So there's research being published in a book called The Lost Lake, which I'd like to get a copy of. You can tell different layers of thing. What they're basically talking about, this lake was inhabited for a long time. And the thing I quite enjoy, they talk about the what they call a longhouse, like a big building, a communal building, judging by the size of it. And it's got corners and straight edges. That must be Roman, surely. There's this bizarre, I don't know what you call it, a dogma in the sort of mainstream, particularly archaeologists, it seems, that if it's round, it's British or Celtic or whatever they want to call it. And if it's got corners, it must be Roman or straight edges. Well, let's blows that theory for a start. Right, so let's go to the next bit then. There we go. The group had used radiocarbon technology to find the dates, which are produced by Scottish University's Environmental Research Centre. Mr. Clark said there was now evidence that the foundations of the huge structure discovered by the team were also Bronze Age. The find showed the information given to the Heritage Minister by civil servants was manifestly erroneous. So the report they were given was nothing to see here, folks. Let's just crack on and build our houses, yeah? So what you find then, you got the local AM, this was in those days, the Assembly member of the Welsh Parliament. They call him something else now, can't remember where it is. I hope that CADW reappraise their opinion and at least consider that the Monmouth archaeological interpretation may be right. So there we got CADW, the one supposed to be looking after our Welsh heritage, okay? A CADW spokesman said different interpretations are not uncommon. And we tend to play it safe if we go with CADW. We just say there's nothing to see is our general approach. Don't forget, they are the only official body protecting our sites. They should be erring on the side of protect it, it's important, until pushed the other way by people who want to build. They should be against the builders. Unfortunately, these organisations, not the Monmouth Archaeological Society, local amateur group, I've got a lot of respect for, just based on this work only. The official bodies get paid by the building companies. And to put it in blunt terms, if you want to build a load of houses and you've invested millions of pounds, which organisation are you going to go to? The one that's going to be a pain in the butt and find stuff every 20 yards, or the ones who'll say nothing to find. Anyway, so you can read the rest of the article. There's the longhouse I was talking about. Bronze Age longhouse. I thought they were Viking. And all the Welsh stuff was round. Anyway. There's no idea about there's a Bronze Age site. Here we go. Mr. Clark said, and I feel for Mr. Clark. I'm very concerned that an officer from CADW should go on a site for 5 minutes and I'd decide that our reading of everything is wrong. I think it's silly and it's damaging to our professional reputation. This is one of the most important sites I've seen in 30 years. Usual answer from CADW. Differences are not uncommon. Blah blah blah. Right. So you can just scroll through. Like I said, the link is in there. The one I want to also show then. Hang on a second. How do I change on to the next one? Because this is the problem. You do things live sometimes. I'm trying to show different things. Hang on. Okay. Because I managed to dig out a few more things on this then. Why have I got a Microsoft privacy statement? I don't want Microsoft privacy statement. What's this to do with? I don't know what's happened there. Hang on, you can watch this with me. I'm just trying to get this story here. Because what we have then is when the local politicians started getting involved then. So you can see the things I'm doing behind the scenes here. Right, let's try again. Right, here we go. So you've got an archaeologist, and this is more recently now. Okay, so like 3 years ago. There you are. A Monmouth archaeologist has slammed an archaeological trust that are official advisors to Monmouth County Council following approval of plans on a sensitive site. Steve Clark, MBE. This isn't some crazy geek or an amateur like me just going along and thinking, I wonder what that is. This is a professional. He's based in Monmouth. He spent a lot of time researching the site. And he's calling for an investigation into why a multi-million-pound housing development beside an internationally recognised prehistoric site. This site is a world significance. Forget your local significance. National, regional. This was world significance. It was a lake with hundreds and hundreds of years, possibly thousands of years of habitation in Monmouth, showing longhouses, boat building, all sorts of crucial historical developments. So it's internationally recognised prehistoric site, and it was given planning consent with no requirement for an archaeologist to be in attendance. And guess who did the advice? Wilson and Blackett's old friends. And this is what worried me about this article. I try and stay out of politics as much as possible, but the ones that were causing Wilson and Blackett all those problems back in the 80s, Glamorgan Gwent Archaeological Trust, GGAT, which is now a private limited company, making some nice money and getting grants. Thank you very much. I have been informed. Careful before someone sues me or something. GGAT advised Monmouthshire County Council that 70 houses proposed in 2017 for a field next to Park Lindua should be developed without archaeological cover. And MCC, this is Monmouthshire County Council, passed the plans. And it's a wider application of another 130 houses. And I love this, because this is the most frightening words in planning consents and archaeology. Desk-based assessment. So basically, you just look on Google Earth or something and to have a quick look at the area, which you won't really see anything much unless you get very lucky. As I did last couple of weeks ago when I found that island up on Senghenydd. But more important, what they mean by this is you go through to see if there's any scheduled monuments. This is the process. So if whatever you've got up there, and I'm making an appeal now to people who found things, and I know there's some people out there who contacted me and want to keep things very secret. Some things up on Senghenydd, and there's some other sites and other places where for reasons I do not understand at all, want to keep the information to themselves until they're going to, I don't know, make millions publishing a book or whatever they plan to do, which good luck with that plan. I don't know what the plan is. If it's not published, if it's not recognised, if it's not scheduled, it doesn't count, it'll be gone. And the only people who can schedule, to my knowledge, are CADW. So CADW are crucial, okay? I mean, what is this year? There was a low potential for archaeological remains. They're not even saying no, and this has gone on for years, this campaign. And it sounds a bit more like this. Here we are. He reminded her the adjacent field yielded Stone Age to Iron Age stuff. Timbers preserved from, 3,500 years ago. This article terrifies me because this is serious stuff here. So you got Bronze Age, Stone Age settlements building on stilts. You can see apparently it's massive. You can read the rest of it yourself, but I've read it all. It's massive wooden timbers to keep things 3 to 1,006 year old. Possibly the oldest boat building yard in the world. Things here could predate the pyramids. It's massive. And all this is put in front of the people, is put in front of GGAT, is put in front of CADW, is put in front of the... And this people here, see this? Headland archaeology. Right, so when we're looking at Senghenydd and Caerau and these other sites that we've got under threat, particularly Senghenydd, guess who the people involved are? See if you can find these names. You get a full house on your bingo card. Headland archaeology, GGAT, CADW. It's the same 1, 2, 3. Ah, jeez. So this goes all the way back to 2004. This is almost 20 years. And they did this. This is great, right? No significant discoveries during the watching brief because no one looked. There was no archaeology done. The only things found are the Monmouth archaeology. So I'm hoping very much to speak to a brave and well-informed person who started putting this together and find out more about Monmouth. I've tried finding the site. I don't know if they changed the name after they built the estate or something. It's not obvious to find it, but well done, Mr. Clark, for at least trying. So this is the situation we're in, all right? We're playing for keeps. It's serious. And money talks, and that's what wins in these situations. Okay, so all the things we're trying to do at the moment. All right, I'm going to try and show you now. Hopefully it comes up next. Is it next on my thing? I'm going to jump forward. Hang on a second. Let's do things a little bit out of sequence because there is something I'd like people to do. Right, okay, here it is. Right, okay, let's put this back on screen. Right, this is... CADW sent me this because I'm a member of the CADW whatever and I'm supposed to get a newsletter. Funny enough, after I reviewed the last few, I haven't had any more newsletters. So if you are in CADW and you've had your little quarterly summary of work being done, I'm trying to be polite as possible, please let me know or even send me the copy because I don't seem to have a copy. I'll ring them up and complain, find out where it is. So I don't think they've just stopped, or maybe they've stopped giving it to me. I don't know. I'm whatever the opposite of paranoid is, that's me, alright? I think everyone's on my team. Right, so here we go. So if you copy this address, which is in the description, smartsurvey.co.uk, CADW Publications, let's go full screen. Oh no, you can't see it then, can you? Hang on. CADW Publications, alright? So this is a short survey, and it's very short. So please do it, it'll take you 2 minutes. So we go to this, yeah, we're, what kind of books would you like us to produce? Alright, so it's only a, it's not about all their work and everything. Right, here we go. I just thought I'd show you the questions, okay? You can answer the questions any way you like. That's entirely up to you, alright? I'm just making you aware of what you have an opportunity to give some feedback. It just makes me laugh. Think about the types of books you would buy from a heritage organisation. Which of the below would you consider buying from CADW? A large hardback themed coffee table book containing multiple sites. A CADW handbook containing information on all CADW sites. A CADW guidebook to one site. Well, it voices the question, doesn't it? Because the whole point is what sites. What sites are you talking about is the key. I'd be just saying not any of those, whatever's coming up. Now this is the bit which is worrying, right? Because this gives you basically the categories they consider for publication. And what we'll do is look on here and see where you see anything about what you might call the age of the saints. It's all about Welsh history now. Normally the channel's not all about Wales, okay? And there's stuff tonight about Bretons and all sorts. So if you're not Welsh, don't think this is some nationalist channel only, okay? English history's already... This has been done to English history already. Most of that's already been deleted, okay? Names changed, and we do quite a bit on that as well. I got some stuff on Scotland and Ireland. It all comes in, so don't feel excluded. And we're all in this together. We're trying to save the history for everybody. For all the things I say about Roman and Greek history, I'm still very interested in them. If they were suddenly saying we're going to build a car park over the Parthenon, I'd be signing the petition, even though I'm not Greek. And it's not really my direct history. It still needs saving. Same as if people went to Capitol Hill in Rome and started putting a road through the middle of it. I would be just as annoyed. I'm just as keen to save some of the American sites we've got. I've done videos on New Zealand. I'm going to do some stuff on Australia. There's stuff all over the world, like the Gosforth Glyphs in Australia. I'm desperately trying to find out more about those. And Steve Strang, if you're out there, you're in contact with him, please get hold of him, because we can read those Gosforth Glyphs. We just want better pictures of them. Same with Peruvian history. So don't think, oh, just talking about Welsh stuff, not interested. No, this applies to all of us. We've all got any interest in saving things, we've got to have a look. Can I see the comments as well, please? I've got my glasses anyway, sorry. Right, anyway, so this is the way they look at things. This I just find weird. Prehistoric or Roman sites. Don't forget, this is CADW, yeah? I mean, it's supposed to be... I've got to get this right now, because I use my sort of satire version of CADW so often now. I've forgotten what the real one is. CADW, I think, is to keep. If you look in the old books, it can also mean to keep secret. Interesting, subtle difference. Right, okay, so we've got prehistoric or Roman sites. So, what about the ancient Welsh stuff? What about places we look on this channel, like Llanthony, first church in the world, the Core, St. Peter's Church, Caerau, where you've got the British villa from the Roman era, Carmelot, called Caermelin, which has got clear signs of an ancient castle, which is supposed to be the site of Camelot. What about Lodge Hill, where archaeology is being carried out, and they found roads and cobbles and buildings that predate the Romans and go all through the Roman period, and would tie in with the other sort of Camelot type place. What about the castle at Nash Point, which is slowly falling into the sea, you know? It's either prehistoric, so I'm not even sure what they mean by that, because there's not much interest in the old stones or the star maps and all the kind of things we look at, or Roman sites. Which, yeah, anyway. All right, sacred and religious sites. Well, I would be very interested in that, although I don't think we're on the same wavelength as to what they're referring to. Industrial sites, yeah, the usual thing. Let's look at the coal mines, the misery, and the steelworks. Castles across Wales. You see, that could be an interesting one as well. Once again, if you look at where their money goes and what they do, my favourite example is Caerphilly. We're down in the town of Caerphilly. You see millions and millions and millions being spent on their sort of invader castle designed to suppress the local population, built by the Declares. Same with Harlech Castle and the Edwardian castles, which they've got a whole section for. These are the castles built by your English masters, and they're a World Heritage Site, but the stuff built by the Welsh stuff doesn't really count. So they do mention here, so again, a castles edition for native Welsh castles. Great! I don't think any are on your lists. I've been looking through. You got hundreds listed. Why are none of them got any activities going on? Why are they not promoted? And then the Marcher Lords and the Crown. All right, so you can fill in your own answers. To what extent do you agree with the following statements about the proposed format of a CADW coffee table book? I don't give a monkey's what the format is, to be blunt. Just start putting Welsh stuff in it, you know. So it should be mostly pictures, lots of text. Should have a brief overview or a bit more detail, you know, maybe a map, you know. Is 200 pages enough? I mean, this is pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. How do you identify male, female, or something else? Non-binary or other? You mean non-binary and other? Anyway, and how old are you? All right, that's it. That is the whole survey, okay? So there's no opportunity to write in. Well, I've written in. Actually, there's one place here you might want to mention. How about some of the Welsh sites? Maybe mention the Caerphilly example where you've got Morgraig up on the hill. You can't get at it without climbing over a fence, and it's being allowed to fall into ruin, which is the Welsh castle. And down the hill, you've got the Declare Norman castle, millions spent on it. There we go. I just thought I'd bring that to your attention. Hang on, let's close the curtains while I jump around behind them a second. All right, Arnie, you're going to play some music in a second because I got a bit on one then. Yeah, I got a little bit ranty. All right, so I don't like to get too ranty like that. I will give an example here, though, all right? before I finish, I just realised, because what I did then, while I was on a roll, if you go to the CADW website and go to CADW places to visit, sorry, there we go. And if you've watched, we've got this whole thing, right? Have I put the full videos due to go up? You saw a clip where I led a tour there last week, kindly invited by Lawrence and the Lay Hunters. But I've also been up there before last November with Graham. Hello, Graham, Tara, Julian. No, Julian wasn't on that one, I don't think, but Gavin was there. And we went up there, and what we're trying to do is track down the exact location of the altar that the legend says, or the local history, oral tradition, was built by Jesus himself. And then a few hundred years later, David comes along, David, wrongly I would say called the patron saint of Wales, and he decides he wants to move this altar. But then he has a dream, he sleeps on it and says, hang on, I can't move it. Jesus put this here, or Yesi. You'd probably refer to him as Yesi, as they still do in the Welsh language. Therefore, what I need to do is protect it. So we encased it in lead, buried it in maybe a mound or under some earth, and it's in a wood. I'm not even sure it's originally covered in the earth mound, but it's definitely encased in lead. So we've been trying to find it. Now, one of the fascinating places about Llanthony Priory, as you'll see on the tours, one of the first things you see is right by the car park, is what's considered to be the place where St. David had his cell. His little room where he lived and studied and slept and spent most of the time praying and trying to live on cabbage juice, apparently. And the site is, the way it goes 6th century, because that ties in with David. And we would say that it could even be earlier, it could go back to 1st century. So it's a fascinating, very important religious site. Possibly the first and main residence of David, patron saint of Wales, from the 6th century. The older legends of the early Christianity, this is one of the earliest places it began. If you go and look at the history when you get there, it talks about when the Norman knight arrived there in the 12th, 13th century. He discovered the ruins of the old monastery that David was part of, David. And he had this revelation, he saw God, and he decided to put away his martial ways, stop fighting, and then build his own monastery, Norman-style recluse-type place there. Not long afterwards, he got kicked out by the Welsh, who were, despite the idea of a Norman invasion, were still running this area. So he went back and forth for a few hundred years. So it's a fascinating place. Loads of interesting history. Okay, so here we go. So this is CADW. Their job is to promote Welsh history and preserve it, right? Let's have a look. If there's a better religious site truly suited to the monastic life in a wilderness far removed from the bustle of mankind, we'd like to know. The are words of Gibaldus Cambrensis. The Welsh name would be better than the Latin, I would prefer. But anyway, the 12th century traveller and chronicler, remote Llanthony, locked away in a dramatic location, the Vale of Iwias. It actually mentions that, which is good. It would also be good then to mention that Iwias, the name, thank you to Bob Morgan, comes from Iwias, which is the old Welsh kingdom that was there before Norman times, and but it survived all through the Norman times. They kept kicking the Normans out. A bit of trivia, which I keep dropping in, and I thank you very much, Dick Mortimer, for this, who showed me this. Go to his blog, it's fantastic. It's the longest, the longest continuous active war in the history of the world? Never mind Vietnam or China or anything in the world, is the Welsh struggle against the Normans, which went on for over 350 years, okay? So that can be mentioned there. Iwias can be mentioned. Beneath the brooding borderland Black Mountains, blah, 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 lovely countryside. There we go, you see. So Norman knight William de Lacy founded a hermitage here when he, untypical of the times, abandoned war and embraced religion. So, where's the mention in there that it wasn't just accident? He didn't just ride along one day and think, oh, this is a pretty valley, isn't it lovely? Look at the lovely woods over there. I think I'll have a hermitage. No, he discovered the remains of a monastery of David, the patron saint of Wales, or the one who's called the patron saint, even though I think that's a mistake. Why isn't... This is CADW. It's promoting Welsh history. It can't stop mentioning Normans and putting things into Latin. It's rubbish. Untypical of the times. Bloody right he was untypical. Some sort of religious experience happened to him here, and it's tied in with the Welsh origins of Christianity, which tries to get written out of history. So by 1118, Llanthony had become a monastery of the Augustinian canons. Not really. they had a go, and he got kicked out again, I think, 1130, and Owen came and wrecked the place and all sorts, you know. So none of that gets mentioned. So though now a 900-year-old ruin, actually the ruin's 2,000 years old possibly, it's easy to see from the extensive remains that Llanthony was one of Wales's great foreign-built (medieval) buildings. In particular, its former magnificence lives on in the surviving richly decorated red stonework and superb row of pointed archways which frame a scene that has changed little since de Lacy's times. Shocking, isn't it? So when we're looking at trying to, it breaks my heart to see sites go. Caerau is a little bit different because they're going to build a holiday park there, and the idea is I'll put a little bit of video up. Actually, let's put a bit of video up now. Is that the plan there is we're not going to fight it and try and stop them from doing anything, because the area does need jobs and stuff. Okay, but what we're hoping is we can get them to appreciate the history. And then maybe, so I'm going to have to edit this slightly as I go, because I've got to... How long would this be? I think it's a bit too long, I think. How long would that be? This hasn't been properly edited. It's only 5 minutes, though. So excuse the jumps and the lack of editing, all right? Because I'll put the full video up later in the week. And it's not in full resolution because it's in editing mode. So it's not in HD, okay? But I'll give you an idea. Yeah, it's going to get Japanese knotweed.
Yeah. Trying to get rid of
So we are at Caerau. We can see their presence is starting to be felt. Oh, God. Thanks, Arnie. Okay, I'll just go back to the start. Oh, come on, Ross. We're with Rob. Oh my goodness, it's like trying to pat your stomach and rub your head and all that kind of thing at the same time. It's in my editing software. Okay. This is up to Caerau. I went with Rob just during the week, actually, just a few days ago. Japanese knotweed. So we are at Caerau. We can see their presence is starting to be felt. Oh God! I'm here with Rob. We'll wander up. Morning, Rob.
Hello.
Yes, there you go.
We're back at Caerau.
Back at Caerau, yeah. So we're tacked on all sides. We've got loads of wind turbines over there, and now we got all this activity starting here now to transform this into a wild fox or something. It's going to be called, isn't it?
Wild Fox Resort.
The Wild Fox Resort. Pity any real wild foxes that are here. They won't be. They'll soon be kicked off. Right, so Rob tells me this is one of the testing machines that drills down to see what sort of minerals are below. Not much help for archaeology, unfortunately.
On the front of this is going to be kind of a nature reserve for reptiles and that kind of thing.
Reptiles, got a lot of those here.
Reptiles. Newts. Newts and...
Yeah, so here's the castle from the site. We usually come up round the back or straight at the front there. You can see here it's quite formidable. And there's a Welsh flag at half mast up there. Yeah, sums it up.
Yeah, just say this road that was originally there, JCBs and stuff have gone over it, and they've cut in a big circular section in the field down the bottom, and I think this is going to be part of this nature reserve thing they're doing on the front of the fort, you know.
chance they're going to include the fort then, or have they recognised any of this so far?
It's positive from the emails we've had that they'd like to incorporate the story into the development. But of course this is all preliminary work at the minute. It's going to be months and months and months before they actually start going in and chopping the ground up and stuff. So
you can see their footprints already starting to appear on this hill. Here we go. It's going to be Rape of the Fair Country Mark II is underway, folks. Yeah, the nature reserve is going to do this bit of nature of the world again, isn't it? Look at that, they're really conserving this nature, aren't they? So there's a beautiful Llanthony Valley, the village of Caerau below. Wonder how many people here realise what's going to be happening to their view, I wonder. So as you climb the far the side of the casting scene, already starting to clear out the roads, bringing the hardcore to fill it, so they'll be quarried somewhere.
I don't think they're going to do much on the slope of where the castle would be, but certainly down below there's going to be a circular kind of road or some kind of walkway that takes you around this nature area, whatever it's going to be. But the main one then is going to be over on the top. From the top down on the Cymraeg side is going to be the main theme park.
That'll be accommodation and stuff, isn't it?
Accommodation, dry ski slope and all that kind of stuff.
Right. So how do you think people feel about this then?
Well, generally I think people think it's a good thing. You know, it will provide jobs, it is good. But we don't want the history to be lost. That's why we're doing this, is try and, you know, get in touch with the developers, try and tell them what they got, what they're sitting on, and how they can exploit it for everyone's benefit.
Yeah, minimise the impact is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we do need stuff up here.
Since the coal mines went, I mean, there's nothing really here, you know, in terms of employment. So this is really, it is a good thing. But we can't lose what once was.
Yeah. Hopefully we can make them aware enough to, well, it'd be nice if they can incorporate it, make it a selling point for the theme park, wouldn't it? You know, if they're on the site of an ancient battlefield, all that kind of thing, and an ancient castle.
Yeah, well, you've got a castle site that looks directly at Mynydd Baton, right at the back of the valley. You know,
there's Arthur's famous battlefield over there, yes.
The ancient British trackway going straight from this over the hill to the battlefield. So it's you know, it's there for everyone to see.
Yeah, sorry, I started watching that then. It's there, there's the Welsh flag, that's on the top. Very ugly little building which has been there for quite a while. And don't forget, I think that's it for this one. Yeah. Whoa. Oops, sorry about that. Hang on. So if you see my primitive editing software there. Yes, if you remember the first time I went up to Caerau with Rob, that's how we got to know each other. God, it must be 3 years ago, I think. I just started doing the channel, and Rob got in touch and said, "Hey, come and see this Caerau," because what had happened was it was all Caerau means castles. That's the name of the village, and no one knew why it was called Caerau because there's no obvious castle nearby. The hill opposite looks like it could be one, and we still think there is one there, and it's one of the areas we've been exploring and surveying. But where we had a shock, where Rob got in touch with me, is that hill we just saw then with the fortress on it was covered in trees. And then when it came to harvesting the trees, or there was some disease or whatever it was, they cut all the trees down. Whoa! The massive rings appeared, and you can see it's a hill fort. And you can see the main rampart way up, and suddenly everything, wow, it becomes really clear what it is. So that was a really exciting moment. And that's how I first got to know my friend Lego from doing that, because we've been following it. So we thought it's great, we've got a chance to save this site. We're putting all our bits and pieces together, making a story. Keith Price has been brilliant on this. I should give Keith a mention. And John Pitcher, who I'm going to mention again in a second. They were working on that, and suddenly, like, boom, this Wild Fox dropped. And if you just search Wild Fox Resort, Wild Fox is one word, resort, it'll come up on your searches and you'll be able to see it. And you can see what the developments can look like. It's quite spectacular. But we would like them to do it with protecting the history. Now, as we were there, we met the security guard called Nigel, who's super friendly, super nice. And we'll meet, hopefully meet Nigel again. And he was saying they're actually going to build Europe's, or even the world's, but definitely Europe's, longest dry ski slope. How about that? So it's not just like some little plaything. This is going to be a big resort. So it's be very interesting. But how much better would this resort be if you were to say to people, this is a site of an old ancient castle and King Arthur and stuff. But once again, note that you saw that machine boring down to the ground. This is all they're testing for is minerals and coal, I guess, or whatever. I don't really know what they're testing for. But once again, they're not actually testing for. There's no archaeology being done, and this is the tragedy. We don't know how we're going to do it because Keith has been liaising. I hope Keith is watching this because in totally good faith, he's been liaising with guess who? Gwent and Glamorgan Archaeological Trust, GGAT. So they're the ones who are going to try and push the case for more archaeology. And CADW, they're working with CADW. So what could possibly go wrong there? You know, there we go. Right, okay, before we go on to the next article, it'll be a bit more fun. We're going to have a slight change of pace and have some music. What's it called again, Arnie B?
I can't remember.
Anyway, this was, I think it was, oh my goodness, Ashley. I think it was Ashley. Thank you very much. Again, sent those wonderful flowers. And I think in last week's comments, we're looking for different fiddle songs to play. What's this? The Devil in Georgia, I think it is. Well, I'll give it away now. I was going to ask which song is it. Go on, Arnie, give it a go, mate. We are cheer everyone up a bit after we've been so serious. I was going to show some video during this. Ah, come on, Ross, get going. I know I was going to show. Right, have you got any comments on that last bit? No dances? What? Oh, tap dances, sorry. Yeehaw! Yes, yeehaw! Yes, the British government are definitely putting lots of wind turbines all over these beautiful Welsh places. And you can read about it yourself. Don't take my word for it. Take the government. Wales Vision 2040. You can see lots on there. Hey, well done, Arnie B. I was going to show some little scenes of Taran Doyson that was playing, but there we go. We're going to get so much covered in one evening. Oh my God, it's 9:10 already. I just speed it up here because it's so much to cover. But there, I think our last bit was important. I hope everyone agrees that we do need to spend some time looking at things like that because all this is good fun and a great academic exercise. And if we had all the time in the world, we could just wander around these sites forever, and it's great. And that's pretty much what I was planning to do when I started getting involved in this a few years ago. I did not expect this to become, and I had no intention at all of becoming campaigning and petitions and trying to protect sites and save our history. Not me. Stay out of politics. It's always my policy. I'm not a member of any political organisations. I have no political ambitions, motivations, whatever. I am a member of one organisation now, thanks to Lawrence. And that's the FODs, the Free Order of British Druids. Hang on, got that right? Free Order of Druids. Which has no constitution and no rigorous structure or anything. But apart from that, I had no agenda, I had no interest in. I'm staying out the independence argument, all those things. It's just to present the history was the idea of this channel. But what I've discovered, as more we get into it, a lot of this history is disappearing in front of us. Fast. I mean, we're talking very fast. The next year or two, boom, loads of this is going to be gone. All right, okay. I hope everybody, one of the things spotted on, I don't do the recap of the video again. Hopefully you remember from last week and you can find the video. We found an island on the map. I was looking on the map of Senghenydd Common And there was a stream going all the way around, which you'll find especially more books coming out. Oh my goodness, how are we going to get everything done? Thank you to all the helpers, by the typing and everything's been great. I was going to put it all together and make it into a book, half a dozen books probably. It has to be a team effort. We got to think big and we got to think fast to get recognised before it's too late. Anyway, one of the things spotted up there, another area is going to be another massive wind farm, power stations I call them, is the island, and you can see it's on your screen. Good. And one of the questions you got from the comments, just questions, right? And people out to ask questions, was just down the hill from it was the coal tip. You can see artificial drainage, and they were asking how can we be certain that it's not part of that artificial recent system. So I asked Bob, because he's the expert and he's the clever one. So here we go. So on this I plotted, there's a map I will show you in a second. And the idea was I printed this out so you could look at the map. So there's the island feature, which actually turns up on the old maps as well, which is rather nice. The coal tip is down there. Right, let's just say what Bob sent on the comments. So on this, I plotted the extent of the coal tip and the island feature. From this, it's evident that the coal tip did not extend as far as the island feature. The highest extent of the coal tip is below the 975 feet contour level, which you can see on the modern OS maps, which is 150 foot lower than the level of this. So it's very high up if it's got to anything connection. And of course, a later connection has been added here, which isn't on this old map. During our site visit, which is another video that needs to go up this week, there was no standing water in the closing ditch. Yeah, it's weird, because if you did miss it before, we have a ditch going all the way around this. This is a mound. The highest point is about there, which I did not know, by the way, when I went up to douse this site. I just saw this island, and we're going up there to have an explore and see what we could find, and follow this ditch all the way around to see what's in it, what's up to it. And there's some weird stuff. I think it's around about here somewhere. Both sides come down, to put it in short layman's terms. So if it's for water drainage, where's the water go? There should be a stream there, well, the water's got to go uphill. So how does the water get from there uphill to get round to here? There's a lot of weird things about this. Very, very strange. If it's for drainage, it's really badly designed and they're not quite sure how it works. We need to get Robert Langdon in. And he can talk about water going uphill and things. So when I walk around it and I did some dowsing, show me the burial ground, they found it about here somewhere, which when we later did the surveying and stuff turned out to be the highest point as well. So that was a bit weird. So it could be something here. So we're quite keen to try and preserve this site, because it's going to be, it's fair enough, it's called Toynequint, place of the wind, so you can see why the wind turbines go there, I suppose. If I can just get my bearings quickly, I think there's going to be 4 turbines about here. This might actually escape it. I think there's going to be 1 or 2 here and around there. Another idea I had, which I'm not sure if you've seen in one of my videos yet, you've got these big coal tips which are becoming an eyesore. Because what they did in the 70s, they greened over everything with some sort of grass seed and fertiliser, I guess. And I've noticed they're going black again. That seems to be running out. The soil's just got, it's just lost its nutrients, I'd imagine. And so, well, but if they're going to make these roads, if we can't stop the roads, why not use the slag, the stones from the coal tips to make the roads, instead of quarrying out another hill? But that's another issue anyway. So, right. To the hilltop enclosed by the ditch is boggy ground. This is all boggy, boggy, boggy. So on the face of it, the ditch enclosing the island could have been dug purely for drainage purposes. However, as pointed out in your video, that's one I put up, sections of the drainage ditch run uphill, so preventing water in these parts reaching the new straight ditch running to the northwest, which connects up with the ditches that drain the now recontoured former coal tip. To answer Ahart's questions, the OS map proves that the island did not and does not form part of the coal tip. During our site visit, the island ditch was dry, and we saw no evidence of any spring, which is strange. There must be a spring up here, I think, though. There must be. I don't know where the water's coming from. Why is all this so boggy otherwise? We've got to find that. So any water that occurs in the island ditch would appear to be the result of rainfall and land drainage. Oh, well. The island ditch of a similar dimensions to the Senghenydd dike, and that's quite crucial because the Senghenydd dike runs along here as well. Actually, roughly where this I'm not brilliant at this, but more or less where this byway goes. The island ditch, this is a crucial point, which is where it's similar to the Wansdale supposed dike, is that the ditch is on the inside bank, not the outside, which doesn't work. So at this stage, our investigations are not claiming that the island ditch is an ancient or important historical landscape feature. However, the above 5 points make the island enclosed by the ditch intriguing and potentially an ancient landscape feature. It is clear that further research is required. Okay, how about that? All right, so you can read that yourself. Okay. Here's one I don't know anything about at all, but I'm going to try and look into it for next week. So I'm putting this out as a request for information. This is in Derbyshire, right in the middle of England, where I used to live, a little lad down up in Derbyshire. It's called Cresswell Crags. I'm not taking the mick. This is how I used to talk when I was a lad. Hey, up there, how's it going? So we'll look at Cresswell Crags. Very good, Arnie. That was nice playing, that was. Enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Alright, just quickly. This is an enclosed limestone gorge on the border between Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire, England. Very close to where I used to live. I can't believe I never went there. Cresswell and Whitwell. Alright, village in Derbyshire. I reckon I just I just ignore the dates they give. It's very old, okay? Because they can't work these things out. But anyway, it contains the northernmost cave art in Europe. And evidence of occupation and all sorts of other things. So I'm doing another one of those requests because they seem to be coming great so far. Because the other thing here, right, this is what I tie in, is the place called Elmet. Please, Elmet is so important to English history. E-L-M-E-T. In fact, even Wikipedia does a good job. I'm going to mention it again quickly, because it's quite good on here. Elmet. And if you look at the area of Elmet, it's here, look. Pretty much Derbyshire, West and South Yorkshire. It's all part of Elmet. Oh, it says here, look. Here we are. West Yorkshire, South Yorkshire, North Derbyshire, all right? So pretty close to where those caves were and everything. And you can read through us. I've gone through so many times, not to go through it again. But it ties in with the British areas of Reged, Strathclyde and Gododin. Gododin, by the way, Wilson and Blackett translation, which I will be revealing in the next couple of weeks. It does not mean Northerners. The whole thing's a farce. It's nothing to do with translation of the Northerners, the famous poem of Gododin. It's not about the Gogs. Gododin means something completely different. So Strathclyde, if you're not aware of it, is sort of, well, actually, a bit more Scotland than I thought here. It's southwest Scotland, anyway. This was British. Cumberland, like the Cymru. Cymru, as in Cymru in Wales. Cumberland, Cymruland. Westmoreland. Strathclyde. What are they calling Gododin? Yeah, there's a Brittonic people of northeast Britannia. Descendants of the Votadini. They're best known as the subject of the 6th century Welsh poem of Gododin, which memorialises the battle where they all got slaughtered. And as you know if you know Wilson and Blackett, they say that poem refers to the treacherous slaughter of the people at the peace conference. And I've found a different translation of what Gododin is. The main point of this, what I'm saying is this Elmet is linked to, sorry, so we can see it better there, Elmet, linked to Reged, and then we go up to Ystad again. That's gonna be, all this is British. And if you read the history of Elmet, even on the official sort of wiki thing, it'll mention it was independent up to at least 10th century. Yeah, it's got its own regional identity through the centuries. So it'd be quite interesting to find out more about those caves. Okay, so if anyone does know from Derbyshire, around there, I'd like to know more about that. And I will hoping to go up there in a couple of weeks' time on my way to Newcastle for Alan's birthday, which reminds me again, the sword I showed you is going to be a present for Alan. This wonderful sword by Alan Rees. And I've got one which I'll be putting up probably next week. as a lottery or a raffle, so you can win one of your own. And also, these were kindly donated. These wonderful models. Come back to the microphone, Ross. These wonderful models. We need some light in here. It's getting too dark. Made by John Pitcher. Hang on. Of St. Peter's Church as it is now in a ruin. Hope you can see that. I used some old tricks when I used to do painting soldiers and stuff. Absolutely fantastic. The level of detail is extraordinary. And John gave these to me as a present, which I'm going to be passing on. So he gave me a couple. So I think these look very nice on Alan Wilson's mantelpiece. And there's kind of like a restored version of what it would have looked like. Just checking you can see it on screen. Yes, you can. Marvellous, aren't they? Look at the work that goes into that. And you can buy these as well from Thin V Productions. I should put the link up. Good work by John, and John's working hard on all these projects, covering a lot of ground. And we're all trying to save our history, what's left of it. Okay, so let's go on to... Oh, we've done the CADW thing, didn't we? Let's do some little fun one in a second. I quite like this story. Thank you, Mandy sent me this. Actually, a couple of people sent me this one. A girl goes to school in Celtic warrior. Well, forget the Celtic word a minute. We'll just put down British warrior or Cymraeg or something. Iceni, Lloegren, English. She was addressed as royal family members. All the students in Welsh schools seemed really weird. All supposed to turn up in red, white and blue. Well, there we are. Oh, hang on. Well, she's got a bit of red, white and blue. Look. Anyway, she went as Boudica. I put a link to the article. You can read the whole article. And our boys weren't sure what to do, so didn't have the whole red, white and blue. Just went in red. So, looks a lot like a Welsh rugby shirt, but it's in keeping with the colour scheme. Right, okay, this is the main event of the evening, as it were. It's getting late, oh my goodness. Oh no, I've got so much I want to say on this. Right, sorry, the other things were important. Now, we're going to do this about 20 minutes, it'll be plenty. Right, now this is from Xavi Madek. Thank you very much, Xavier. Xavi, he knows about Breton language, and he sent me a link to this article, which again in the description. Let's look for Breton language article. And I'm going to show it in a second and talk about it, because it applies to lots of things, not just Breton, Welsh, of course. God knows what happened to the ancient English language. I think a similar thing's happening to Gaelic. You can also see what's happening with Catalan, Corsican, Backland Basque, you know. Right, anyway, so let's do a little bit about Breton, shall we? Because it is closely linked to the point. Well, let's just give a little background first. I could do with a map, really, couldn't I, online, to show you a map. Just to get in our heads where everything is, okay? So just a quick look here. Okay, supposed to put a map on. Any map will do. Come on, give me a map. Right, there we are. This will do. It's not brilliant. This will do. Oh, that's not going to work, is it? Alright, sorry. Oh, I know it will do. Anyway, the point of this is that right, yes. Now, Wikipedia again. God dear. There's some basics that are very useful in Wikipedia, okay? Alright, so here we go. So this is the links we're talking about, alright? So we've got the Britons. Actually, this map's not too bad. I mean, it misses out Elmet, which should be a bit more of this, but as you can see, it goes right up to here, to southwest Scotland. There's Cornwall, there's the Welsh bit, plus the Welsh of England. I'm suitably impressed. Here's Armorica, where the Bretons are, or Brittany. And then we also got the bit here, our extra bit, we can talk about the language here as well. Because this really shows, it actually says Britain settlements. Wow. Maybe the tide is turning. Here we go. This is on Wikipedia reference, yeah? Okay. Now, the question is, if we go back to when all this went wrong, if you like, we talk again about this time with the revolution, the coup, when the throne was taken by the city, 1688. And what we had then was a new history was being created. And one of the things they seized on, I don't blame Edward Lloyd, but he did research where he showed the clear links. I don't know why it was so important or earth-shaking. It's pretty obvious if you see the languages. I guess people didn't have so much contact in those days. But you know, just by comparing the languages, you could also mention Isle of Man, where they speak Manx sort of language. You've got the sort of Caerau in Cornwall, Cymraeg. This would have been a sort of similar to Cymraeg, British. Breton, whichever language you're going to be here, we'll see out in a second. So these were all linked, what he called Celtic languages, and that was the problem. He used the word Celtic. Yes, those languages are linked, but the word Celtic causes all sorts of problems because it was then seized upon by sort of religious fanatics at the time trying to push this Anglo-Saxon master race narrative, because at the time of building the empire, and they wanted to control everything, and the best way to control it was to control the people. So the English had their history taken away, their ancient British history, all that's gone. There's barbarians that drifted over from Europe, and they were Celts. And then this weird idea, when you think about it, that when the Angles and Saxons and Germanics landed here, they drove the people. I mean, if you look on places like Wikipedia, it says they dispersed the Celts. They sort of shoved them. But if you look at any other invasion in history, that's not what happens. The people get taken over. They're part of the assets of the land. Politically, they invade. Yeah, they might have taken the best bits of land, some of the bits of land, but we're talking about boatloads of Angles and Saxons, as opposed to millions of British people. So there was no big change. And the language is, the English language is mostly based on Iceni, but that's only a small part of the languages that were spoken about in England. And one of the areas I'm going to do very soon and do a map, I'm making a map about this, is to show as much as we can from the work of Wilson and Blackett and other research, the real breakdown of what the English were. Like the Mercians are probably the Vandals, and they had this bit in the Midlands. You've then got the old Senghenydd, or Senghenydd, which became the Syrians, the Syri. They're from Syria. They're from Syria, which is why you've got Surrey, the county of Surrey here. And Wilson and Blackett surprisingly show these people spreading all the way up here and all the way across there, including north of Britain. And it can be linked to the Irish, which is why you get the people with quite tall people in North Wales, with quite often with red hair. Whereas in South Wales, a different group. The Silures or the Esloig are the Cymry, and they were their short, dark people with their usually blue eyes, and they would cover this sort of area. And then you've got, this is an interesting one here, the Belgae as they called. And the question here, when we go through what happened with the Bretons, are the Belgae as assumed people come from Europe into Britain? Because they could have gone the other way as well. And then you've got some like the Angles would be about here, and we've got maybe Saxons. We got Gwenhwyseg and Wyseg and Saxons, not the same thing. So all this area, there's different people. And as you know, if you speak to different people, different parts of England, incredible range of dialects. There was no standard English. So what we're about to discuss now with Welsh and Breton and these minor languages or smaller languages is what almost undoubtedly happened with English over the last few hundred years. Oh, so if you're looking at the comments there. Okay, so this is roughly what we're talking about here, all right? Now, if you look at, hang on, Zavi's very helpful comments and information. Let's get the right order. Right, I'll just read this out as well a second. I read the other articles before this one in French from Erwan Le Pipec and Jean Ledoux. But this one sums up well the situation. I didn't read it all before I sent it to you. I have, it's brilliant. You knew about the Johnny Onion sellers, whether or not they could speak Welsh or the Welsh could understand them. And another great story which I hadn't heard of before. Has anyone heard of the fighting at Sant Cas? I've got some songs to go with it, and it's a great little story, okay? So what it means is the Bretons weren't alien from the Gaelic tribes. I learn English by reading, but mainly by listening to native speakers on video. English is not Xavier's first language, by the way. Breton learners almost never hear native speakers, which makes the learning experience similar to the one of ancient language learners. To me, it's wrong. And then he talks a lot more about the language, all very interesting. And then he talks about Bro Gwenhwyseg, which I'm going to get onto. And some people think that Gwenhwyseg is not a dialect but a distinct language that need their own orthography. It's a very important word in this. Orthography is like your own language chain rather than just being a dialect and you use someone else's language history. Yet there are sometimes seen as enemies of the Breton language because, and this is the key bit that Xavier points out, for the safety of the language, it's unity that matters. This is the key with all these languages. To experience a class of Gwenhwyseg in over-unified orthography, it's a nightmare. The way the word in unified Breton and the way it's pronounced in Gwenhwyseg, remember that word Gwenhwyseg? Remember that because it's going to come up again, are totally different. And in Corsica, they have, because Corsica, on the map there, little island in the Mediterranean, where Napoleon Bonaparte came from, they have a different language as well. They don't speak French there. One of the problems the young Napoleon had was his strong Corsican accent. They use what's called polynomy, which we'll have a look at in a minute, okay? So, I'm going to come on to this article. And it's a little bit academic, but don't worry. We're not going to... It's not as daunting as it might seem at first. I'm not going to go through the whole thing necessarily. Where's the article gone? Alright, okay, hang on, I'll have to lift the link up. I've got the links in the description. Thank goodness I put the links up first. Because I'm going to make it easier me trying to find them. I've got too many things open, that's the problem. I should shut everything down before a show. But don't worry, it'll take a few seconds. Right, here we go. Right. Don't be put off by the academic look things. This puts everyone off, right? After I get into it, anyway, it's not so bad. Right, so the Neo-Breton and questions of authenticity. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm just going to jump to the bit I want. Right, what we want to do there, the attempts to revitalize Breton. Can I zoom in? I think we help people. Good. They're trying to save the Breton language. This article reviews the trends commentators have taken to regards this variety called Neo-Breton. And as a variety of Breton most likely to survive into the 21st century. Neo-Breton, New Breton. Okay, it's New Breton. And this is what's happened in Wales, and people don't even realise it. There's an argument going on in Brittany that never happened in Wales. I've raised the subject on different Welsh forums and Facebook and stuff like that. And I have had so-called Celtic studies experts absolutely, adamantly deny any of this has happened. It's bizarre, because you can show it has. Alright, so within the field of language death studies, not lovely, the appearance of neo-languages implication for the stages a language experiencing attrition goes through and whether these neo-varieties do realistically represent a future for the endangered language. So what we're trying to do here, the idea is you've got an ancient language is dying through lack of speakers. Now, we could spend a whole evening discussing why there's a lack of speakers, and the parallels to what happened in Breton or Brittany to what happened in Wales are dramatic. Because my own personal example, I have 3 grandparents who spoke Welsh. 2 of my grandparents spoke Welsh as a first language, And yet neither of my parents spoke Welsh at all, apart from trying to learn some in, evening classes and stuff. So in one generation, from about the 1950s, when my parents were born, 1930s, so that sort of era, 1930s, they became adults in the 1950s. That's when the language started dying out. And remarkably, it's a very similar time scale on the other languages we're going to see in a minute, like Breton being the main one we're going to talk about. So I want to get forward to page 203. You don't have to read all this. You can read it all. The link is there. Hope you can get it from my personal membership thing, which is on the thing. Right. The attitudes between the two speakers is important. So you got the Neo-Bretonants. What they believe is to salvage the language. Just to go back slightly. What you have in the small Brittany area with a small number of people is lots of dialects of Breton. Now, the history of Breton, as far as we can see from the works of Wilson and Blackett, the history is it's called Breton because the Britons invaded the area. That's why it's called Brittany. And the language is Breton, and that's why it's so similar to a language like Welsh, because it was British people speaking both, and they took the language with them. So this happened in the 3rd century. You see it again in the 4th century, the famous Max and Ledig, we're going to sing about in a minute. 383, that really consolidated the invasion. And there's old legends and folk tales that the Welsh actually, I shouldn't say Welsh, the British at this point, because I think there's probably English there as well, or Lloegr. They actually cut out they married the local girls, and they cut out their tongues so their mother tongue would not be passed on, which is why they speak Breton rather than being influenced by the local Gaelic languages. So what the DNA would make of all that, I have no idea. This is why DNA can be such a problem. So you have little dialects break out, same as in Wales, different dialects all over Wales. The north and south were speaking completely different languages, really. And this is one of the problems you have with standardisation. What do you do? What do you do in a situation whereby you got lots of little pockets of dialects slowly dying out because people are being forced for economic reasons, get a good job, get an education, move into professions, go into law courts, business, you need to speak the main language, which in the case of Wales was English. Same with Scotland and Ireland. They were forced to abandon the native tongues and speak English. The whole identity had to go. It's all part of the same thing. In Scotland, the tartan had to go, the bagpipes. Same in Ireland, all these traditions had to go, the language had to go. And with the Bretons, the French language was the one that was imposed. Same with, I understand a lot of the Cornish language, very little of the Breton language. It's been heavily influenced by French. You're right, Alan, it has recently. Hang on, anyway, I guess good comments on that one. A second. Oh no, it's scrolled off the bottom. How do I do it? Arnie, where's Arnie gone? They started putting Gaelic on police cars up here in Scotland a couple of years ago. Just like Wales, it's in English and Welsh Gaelic. The problem with Scotland is Gaelic is great, but putting some British up there would be even better. Because as we saw earlier, the Strathclyde area, they would have spoken something similar to Welsh. It would possibly even the same language, or definitely similar to what they spoke in North Wales. Because they returned and kicked out the Irish from North Wales, so probably closer to the North Wales dialect, which is closer to what the modern Welsh is than the old South Wales dialect, as we'll see. So when they talk about restoring Scottish language, they mean the language of the Scotii invaders who came in the 6th century with sort of Gaelic. They never actually talk about the ancient British language, which is interesting. I've never heard a Scottish nationalist mention that at all. But there again, Plaid Cymru aren't interested in this either. Right, so anyway, the Neo-Bretonants, so they're the ones saying the only way to make your language survive is to standardise it into a new language which can have a proper grammar, and it can have books, and it can have all these things, maybe a TV station, whatever it takes. And therefore, it'll be a big enough scale for it to survive. And this is where a lot of compromises also take place then, because you start to bring in grammar rules and stuff that make it reflect more mainstream languages, rather than the weird kind of languages that you get in the past, okay? So what they say is speaking Breton is something positive. It's not the old Breton. They freely admit it, the Neo-Bretonants. The different situation there and what's in Wales and Scotland and Ireland is they freely admit this is not the old Breton language. This is not what the old people speak. But this is a revived language. There was hardly anyone left speaking Breton at one point. So we've revived it through the schools, as is happening in Wales. And this is the story which I keep telling, and I've got to get on tape now the COVID thing's all ended and all that stuff. Because, was it 3 years ago? It was at least 2 years ago. I was speaking with some of the old girls in my local chapel. They're in their 80s. They're absolutely glorious people. And I heard them chatting away. I don't speak Welsh fluently, but obviously I picked some up. I'm trying my best to learn it. And it wasn't the same. And I was asking them what they're speaking. And we got talking about it. And what was curious, they said they speak, their version of Welsh is totally different to what their grandchildren are learning in school. So when the grandchildren come home from school, they want to speak Welsh with their gran, and the gran has to adapt to speak the modern Welsh that they're learning in the schools. If you think how languages work, usually the adults teach the children how to speak, and that's how you get continuation of language. What's happened in Wales, and as you'll see in Brittany, the opposite. A new version is being taught in the schools, and that becomes the official language, and that's not what the old people spoke, particularly in southeast Wales. Now, when everyone thinks of Welsh speakers, they always think of the rural areas, West Wales, North Wales, and as a percentage of population, that's probably correct. Might not have been correct 70, 80 years ago, but we'll give it that anyway. The difference is, though, the vast majority of the population lives in the southeast. So most Welsh speakers, in terms of raw numbers, were in the southeast. And what they spoke is something called Gwenhwyseg. So Gwenhwyseg was the most widely spoken form of Welsh. The most widely. And I say widely, most people spoke Gwenhwyseg than any other type of Welsh. But because of political pressures and the way things work, that is not the Welsh that's being preserved. And now, as I've covered on other programmes, there's hardly anyone speaks Gwenhwyseg, apart from some old people, which is why I need to go out and record them quick. Hopefully we can take the restrictions off and I can get them to just chat amongst themselves and just record it. So it does sound quite a bit different. And one of the things you notice the way they speak English as well, particularly Gwent. I've got family over in Gwent, and their accent is very strong, and it's a very different way of saying things. And flattened vowels like you have in Cardiff, like Cardiff. Like when you have a pint of beer, like, you have a pint of dark, that's dark beer. In Cardiff, like, it talks like this, you have a pint of dark in a straight glass. And if you go down to the Cardiff Arms Park for a game of Cardiff, down in Cardiff, watch Cardiff play, it's like that, see? That doesn't sound much like a Welsh accent that you're used to hearing, is it? Because people say, when you speak Welsh, you say Caerdydd. Well, that's a North Walian, or it's a new Welsh thing. Caerdydd is the old way of doing it. Anyway, I'm digressing a bit, but this is the same situation with Breton. So the first philosophical question you have to ask yourself, because there's no right or wrong answer, by creating a language which is similar and uses some of the words of the old language and gives it a better chance of survival through TV stations, books, newspapers, and teaching in schools, because it's a language that's better suited to those media. Is that saving something or nothing? Or is that actually speeding up the death of the old language? This is one of the arguments that people against it have. So you can read it here. This paper puts it so well. 1998. They lay great emphasis upon maintaining the tradition of speaking Breton within their families and instill their children from the first with a sense of Breton identity by giving them names such as Divi, Gwenol, Nolen. They sound a bit Welsh, actually. Because, funny enough, one of the old ladies who might be watching tonight is Gwenhwyseg and Gwenol. Anyway, Llanthony, this stands in marked contrast with the stance of many native speakers. It's almost like it's become a theme park thing, like, I don't want to be rude at all, because I think it's a good thing in many ways, but you'll find, in Arnie's rugby team and that, you'll find lots of boys with Welsh spellings, Maxen with a CS, and Yestins, and lots of Welsh names which you never saw when I was a boy. There's all Davids was the most Welsh name you had. So it's this kind of, I don't know, Disney Welsh. That's a bit cruel, isn't it? But I think you understand what I mean. All right, so the evolution of Neo-Breton, the new language. A lot of this is in French, which gets confusing. So they pick a particular region, in this case the Lyonnese pronunciation. So that's it. That one type of pronunciation is going to be for the whole language. So there's different ways to sort of vowels. It gets quite technical. If you're into languages, I fully recommend this article. It's brilliant. It's a really good article. And it's different. So you got the Breton ants, mostly older people who were holding on, speaking the old proper Breton, the old historic Breton. Up to 500,000, but declining at an alarming rate because it's not being taught in the schools. They want to get works. They speak French. They've adapted French words. They speak it because it's their native language and become ashamed of it. Whereas this newer language has become a sort of political language, and they want to make a point that I am a Breton, therefore I speak the language. A bit like me learning Welsh from a book, yeah? So that's the kind of breakdown. Okay, so it's different. You can read all this yourself. It's not what I want to talk about. Well, I'd love to if we've got 3 or 4 hours to spare. And you've got different dialects and why they do it. Right. That just jumped out at me then. Hang on a second. Yeah. So in a similar situation, Hinks, in his paper on literary Welsh and literary Breton, as linguistic scapegoats, points out that where Welsh language planners have attempted to replace such obviously English loanwords, this is such as whatever, sandwich and all this kind of stuff, with neologisms, i.e. they're making up new words, no one is attempting to suggest that a Welsh xenolect is being created, mainly because of the higher status of Welsh and the influence of the language in the educational system. Pooh, there's a lot there, isn't it? I think what they're trying to say is, I've seen this with some of the place names they've done it, creating new words just because they look more Welsh than the other words. The irony is, sometimes the words assumed to be borrowed from English into the Welsh, and then you look it up historically and you find it's a Welsh word in the first place. And what they've done, they've created this, what do they call them? Zeno something? A new Xenolect? A Welsh Xenolect. I'll have to look that up. I don't know that word. Hang on. I know Zeno is outside, isn't it? Xenolect. VWX. This is my 1963 dictionary. This is my dad's. So if something can have WX. Oh, come on, Ross. So good looking at words normally. Get a crowd watching you. There's not many X's. That's where it is. I keep going past the X's. X. Xenon. I don't think Xenolect is a word, is it? Just, yeah, I think Xenolect. Zeno. Stranger. Hospitality. Stone or rock occurring. A system of rock to which does not belong. Yeah, so something from outside. So it's words taken from outside. They make up these funny words, don't they? Right. I think what they're trying to say is you're going to make up more new words rather than use the words that have been borrowed from outside. The thinking is if you're a native Welsh speaker and you've been taught it for a half and a new item comes along, you're just going to use the new word. Whereas if you're speaking a language to make a point politically, I speak this language politically, you need your own word. All right, so you've got different things then about all the way the language structures and all that kind of stuff. Different words compared, how they change over time. It's very interesting, I'm sure. Sorry, that sounds cynical. It is interesting. Right, this is why I want to get into it. How unusual is Neo-Breton? Right, here we go. I'll tell you, I'll jump a second. The next bit here. God, there's so much that I've already got into. So what we have then is this. What surprised me reading this is the same sort of thing then. We've got the superiority French and the inferiority of Breton. And this is the psychological way in which these languages are crushed. In Welsh, and I assume the same happened in Breton, it was actually laws were passed way back in the 14th century, 15th century, all official business, whether it be in the courts or anything like that, was always done in English. No evidence could be given in Welsh, and none of the lawyers could be Welsh speaking, or the judges, all the professions. Everything had to be carried out in English. So there's a real practical problem. If you go into court, you haven't got a clue what's being said. How can you defend yourself or prosecute your own case? But what I think has been more significant, I know Alan Wilson talks about this, is the idea of making you feel inferior for having the accent even, never mind even the language. This is why I have this kind of posh accent. I sound a bit Welsh, but I was trained, if you like, to speak the more media-savvy English accent, so I could have not suffer the same prejudice when I went to England. I was in London for many years, and I worked in advertising and various other things on the sales side, not making adverts. And the very strong Welsh accent round here, like I do talk amongst my buddies, ain't going to cut this, but doesn't matter what you're saying. Saying it like that is considered a handicap. I'm trying to get my Welsh accent more into my voice again. I think it's something to be proud of. You shouldn't judge people on how they speak, but that's how it is. And that's what was done to my parents' generation. Or my grandparents' generation, where they'd be speaking over the school wall in Welsh. Children would come home from school and they'd switch to English because it's better for the children to have a future. Same with Breton, okay? Now, I don't want to go a little bit further. It's getting quite late, isn't it? 10 to 10. Oh, my goodness. This is quite interesting, right? Why does it mention Hebrew? Sorry, here we go. Yeah, sorry. Of course it is. Here we go. Right. This is the Hebrew thing was interesting, so that ties in with something we're doing here. Right. So Neo-Breton, i.e. the invented artificial plastic version, is no one's native language variety. No one spoke it. That's the weird thing. You end up with a language that no one used to speak. Anyway, it's not necessarily survival of the Breton language as a social medium. I love this. This is the weird arguments you have. So Breton survived even though it's nothing like what people used to speak and call Breton. Similar things happened in Israel, okay? Because Hebrew, all they had was some written Hebrew. Before I get myself into too deep water, but I would say even that's of dodgy provenance. So what they had to do was they more or less created a language. The European Jews spoke Yiddish when they went to Israel. And there's other languages. No one actually spoke Hebrew. No one had spoken Hebrew for hundreds and hundreds of years. Over a couple of thousand years even. Who knows? So what they had to do was more or less create the language. Or I think the word is resurrect is the technical term. So the children then come along for new terms. So like 65 this goes back to. So what was happening when they were creating the new language, they haven't created all the words yet. So the children are ahead of them because they need a new word for laptop, or a mobile phone, or just some slang or something. So it starts creating its own momentum and its own words, and it starts to have its own development. So what you create is a new language, but the bones of the new language are artificial. And the flesh is quite new flesh, not the ancient flesh. So when they talk here about Neo-Breton becoming more nativized, they mean that new words and slang has been added on by people who speak this artificial Breton. So what exactly are you doing? So no one's native language variety, you see? So become less true as time passes. I'd argue the opposite, but anyway. What remains to be seen is whether these Breton speakers will pass the language on to their own children, should they have any, either in a family situation or through enrolling them in a bilingual or immersion school. Now, how did they create Breton? Because they didn't have there were so few Breton speakers, the language is almost dead. So now it gets even more confusing. Because what they did was borrow Welsh words. So one of the reasons you're going to see similar words is because that's where they got them from. They also Bretonized some German, English, French, Russian words, Latin, all sorts of stuff, to try and create a new language because they need a full vocabulary. So the issues of the new, so can you see that? The new and old forms of a language and the difficulties native speakers have. The problem is the native speakers now can't speak to the Breton speakers. So the old people can't communicate hardly at all. They don't speak this new language, and they're a bit upset about it, because now they feel even more marginalised because they don't speak the right Breton. They speak the stupid version that doesn't have the books and the TV programmes and all that kind of stuff. And they're considered to be the sort of, the country bumpkins. We've got the same thing in Welsh. It's interesting, you see. So what you have in Wales now is what's known as Cymraeg byw, the living Welsh. And this is going back to the 1970s. Look, I love this paper. Is fantastic. Far from bridging the gulf between learners and native speakers and providing a new form of standardised Welsh, which is the dream, Cymraeg byw or Cymraeg byw has widened the gulf and caused rifts amongst academics, some of whom consider it as a useful tool, while others cannot see why there was any need to create a new variety when a perfectly good form of standard Welsh already existed. I'm not sure exactly what it means by standard Welsh because people spoke all sorts of Welsh. Same with Irish, Newer Gaelic, New Irish. It's a standardised amalgam. It's when you pull together all the different dialects, purged. This is the magic of a language, the grammatical purged the grammatical irregularity and designed for official use, you see. This is what's happened again. I think something like this is what happened with Latin, as we discussed before. Or I am going to put the recording up with Alan Wilson talking about Latin. Same with Cornish. They reckon here no one was speaking Cornish. Somewhere in this article anyway, about 1900s. I'm not sure about that. But it's basically a 20th century invention. Its pronunciation, its vocabulary, even its grammar. So all these languages, normalize, a corrected, what this word here, corrected form of language. It's got the same in English-speaking Ontario. This happens everywhere, okay? So please read this article. I think it's fantastic. You can read academic articles. They're not terrible. Now, what else going to you? We got that bit in northern... remember the bit on the north of Spain where they landed there? I wasn't sure if it's Castilian or Galician. It's both. So there we go. So here we go. So we got the Galician. That's Galicia, that bit there. So what you got there is filtering and interference processes, the latter being due to the presence of mother tongue Castilian, another local language which is disappearing or it's gone. All this, by the way, has happened since roughly the 1950s. So my grandparents, who were Welsh speakers, were still around to at least the 70s, but in the 1950s is when it really started plummeting, the numbers speaking the old languages. So we got Castilian disappearing. In northern Basque country, native speakers of Basque are noticing that the younger generations, especially those educated in the Basque immersion schools, show French interference in the Basque syntax. So those going to school in an immersive, everyone speaks Basque language, do exams in Basque and everything, are speaking a more Frenchified version of Basque than the native speakers who only speak it now and again amongst their friends. What's going on? Is this a natural process? Is this deliberate? Is this part of this idea that the whole of Europe's going to speak one sort of dull Esperanto, some characterless, sterile language, where there's just one sort of... we got another language next to Brittany. The language d'Oil, and I might have to pronounce that. Under 40 years old. See this? This is... sorry, let's get this right. Hang on a second. Speakers of Gallo. There we are. Gallo. This is this language. Gallo now. Got this new Gallo language. So those under 40 years old can reasonably be classified as Neo-Gallo speakers, given that in order to attain a high level of Gallo, these speakers will in all likelihood have employed language learning strategies associated with neo-language learners. They learn it like a foreigner. They learn a standard version and they learn a standard case. So we're not learning the old languages at all. Same as Irish. The modern Irish is not the same as the old Irish. It's not the same thing. None of these languages are the same. So when you have some smart ass saying, hey, there's no way a Welsh person can speak to a Breton, all those stories about Johnny Onions coming over and selling his onions, and the Welsh from Cardiff and Newport in the southeast where the onion sellers would come, could talk to each other. And you get the modern Celtic studies, the linguist experts going, oh, it's a load of rubbish, it's just fairy tales. Or the Bretons are really clever and they learnt some Welsh just to make friends and sell more onions. No, they could. They can't now. Because all these languages have been wrecked. What's being taught in Welsh schools or on the Welsh TV and the radio is not proper Welsh. There's some people still speaking it, and you still get some of it. As he's explaining in this paper, I was just so excited. I mean, this is kind of impression I've had without being as academic to put it like this for years. You've got people. It's almost a joke if I try and follow the Welsh language radio and TV, just because I don't particularly follow the mainstream very much. I just want to listen in Welsh and learn the language is the idea and get the sound of it. And you can tell on there the older presenters using older words and a richer vocabulary. Even like the most basic things. Like the first thing, the first words you learn as a Welsh learner, okay, in Cymraeg, because the Welsh word for to like is hoffi. So, do you like coffee is funny, right? I do eat hoffi coffee, it rhymes. I was taught to say, I do. Yes, I do. Radween. I do. Radween hoffi coffee, okay? Nice and easy. Radween, if you learn Welsh now, has become dwin. So the very first word you learn when you learn the Welsh language is gone. The very first word. And it only gets worse, and it seems to be the same with Breton. So we can go through these other... who are the Neo-Bretonians? Right, it's a bit late, I won't go through all this. But it gives you... It's just stats then. How many people speak with their grandparents? There we are, hang on a second. There's one little bit I want to mention. So Neo-Bretons, these are like we're from Breton, we speak our own language. Even though it's not really our language, it makes us different to the rest of the French. That seems to be the way it works to me. Could you argue the same with Welsh, Scottish and Irish with their languages? Is it an artificial way of identifying yourself or separating yourself, or is it actually a desire to speak the language of your forefathers, which I thought is what the idea was, okay? So they speak with friends, grandparents, all this kind of stuff. Anyway, I won't go through all that. Conclusion. I spent ages looking at this paper. It's taken up a big chunk of my week, actually. It leads on to other pages, and there's references you can follow, and there's some of these I've looked up. It's crucial because I'll come back to why it's crucial. My conclusions in a second. So the Breton language is at a critical point in its history. In that the 21st century will see the near total disappearance of traditional Breton speakers. Same in Wales. I don't know about Scotland and Ireland. I imagine it's the same. And this is what I think happened in England, maybe a couple of hundred years ago, where you still hear dialects, you have very strong accents, Geordie and Scouse and that East Anglian burr and the West Country thing. And they have different, but it's almost like an artificial version, It's almost like the Wurzels or me doing a funny accent rather than the old lexicon, the old words and syntax and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so they're gradually dying out. So traditional Breton speakers are not reproducing themselves. So the cohort of Breton speakers in their 50s and 60s will be the last generation. Isn't that awful? The last generation. The language has been around for thousands of years. It could go all the way back to ancient Assyria. Just like Welsh does. Just like Irish does. Just like the Gaelic, The last generation before we start speaking this plastic version. There are and will be some exceptions, of course. Now this is the big question, of course. Does this mean that Breton will be an obsolescent language? So does it mean Breton... I should read it first. And the existence of Neo-Breton merely represents the pre-terminal phase of some dying languages in particular socio-political contexts. Where the discussion goes from there is not so interesting to me, because what they're saying is, will this new synthetic language save the language? Will it continue? Or will that be the end of it? Well, I mean, I would argue that if it's the plastic version, it's more or less gone anyway. What exactly are you saying? Which is... The artificial language means that it won't be consigned to the dead languages just yet. All right, so quite heavy stuff. And it's the same, like I said, Corsican got a passing mention. I think there's more in the article about it, because I've been reading about Corsican this week, and I can't think where else I read it. Various other things. Right, there's a couple of other things I mentioned in there. Right, I'm just going to jump around quickly. Gwenhwyseg, Welsh dialect, Southeast Wales. The name derives from an old term for the inhabitants of the area, the Gwenhwys. This is Gwenwyd, right? Gwenhwys. One of Gwenhwyseg's characteristics is the change in the long A vowel. This is ah. You see how your mom. That's the Gwent, right? The diphthong A is changed in the same way. So Cymraeg becomes Cymraeg, Tried becomes Trade, and Kai, and Caerdydd is Caerdydd. I'm not an expert, but I have heard enough of it. Because like my mother's family comes from, they went from North Wales down to Gwent, so I kind of, that's how my cousins speak, with this kind of Gwent accent. And also the syntax changes as well. Like people take the mickey out of Welsh people for having bad English. For example, saying things like, I'll learn you, rather than I'll teach you. Well, in Welsh, dysgu is the word for to teach and to learn. There aren't two words for it. And there's one extra thing, which I might have typed out on her. Yes. Oop. So I was trying to make it a bit prettier for you. Alright, because there's a lot on tonight. The language doesn't make up all the identity. Before secularization, Breton language was tied with traditional Catholicism. Yeah, it's a very Catholic country, Brittany. The written Breton was one of the priests' devotional books, etc. Villemarsh to Ropars Ormond. I don't know what that's about. But anyway, an idealistic vision of I did look it up. An idealistic version of Breton identity, influenced by Romanticism, want to make the language more Celtic and less Romance and French. People have always had this idea, let's change the language to save it. And actually, by changing it, you're losing it anyway. So the over-unified orthography was made up by Roberts Herman and was instigated by the occupying forces of Germany. They want it nicely boxed and packaged with a bow on the top. Right, do you know, this is the question at the bottom, I hope you can see it on screen nice and clear. P.S. Do you know the link between Bro Gwened, which is a Breton thing, and the Welsh Gwynedd? Gwynedd name come from the Veneti tribe that inhabited there, must be the same in North Wales. It could be, but I will also draw attention to, as I was just saying, Gwenhwyseg. This is the big reveal moment. So well done for staying with me till 10:05. Oh my goodness, these programs getting longer and longer and longer. If I just go back to Gwenhwyseg, Gwentian, because Gwen is beautiful or pure or something like that. And if you look on here, oh no, must be the next one I opened up to find this. Lovely picture, somewhere in Breton, looks beautiful. Nope, I don't have it here. Plasters, oh well. The other name for it is Gwynedd. And also, to point, something that Wilson Black is pointing out some of the other writing, it's when we're talking, it's an amazing loop around somehow. When we get back to King Arthur conspiracy, you can read about it in there. Is when we're talking about, this is one of the confusions that's been touched upon accidentally by Xavier, is that when we say Gwynedd, the natural temptation is to think of Gwynedd in North Wales. That's also where the name Gwent comes from. Gwenedd, it's the same word. And it means the beautiful place or the beautiful port. And it could be a reference, the beautiful port particularly, to the safe havens, the beautiful havens on the Severn, where you could depart from and where the ships would go from. Or it could be more to do with Milford Haven. But this is where some of that confusion has come from between the two Maddocks, where the word Gwynedd has been moved to Gwynedd up in North Wales, and then you've got the Maraddock journeys in the 13th century, rather than Maddock from Gwynedd in the southeast Wales in the 6th century. So I think the fact it ties in with something in Breton or Breton works really well with that. So there you go. There's quite a lot more I want to say on this, but I think that's enough for one night. I haven't looked at any of the comments either here. Hope people were staying with me and not completely bailing out in large numbers. Well, I think the numbers have gone down a little bit. It was a bit heavy, some of this. It's gone a long time. So perhaps people come back later. So thank you to Xavier for sending that. And it was a little bit heavy this week. We are trying to learn stuff, aren't we? So we have to push ourselves a little bit sometimes, okay? So there's the paper we're just looking at. Hang on, let's make sure it's on screen. There's my little scene from Breton. Oh, yeah. I was going to play a couple of Breton songs and get yourself ready for a closing piece on. It's got very late. You ready, Arnie B? Hang on, where do I put these songs? They're great songs. And they're absolutely brilliant. Come on. Oh no, where's the songs gone? I have to find his email. Sorry. Oh no, I'll have to play the songs next week, I think. Oh, cool, that must have hit some ear. Sorry about that, folks. This is some traditional Breton music, but it's not one to play. I had some battle songs and stuff. And there's one more thing to talk about. I did promise I would talk about the Battle of... let's get the name of it right again. Well, what happened there? I do want to read the story. I'll read it with this music, if I can turn it down a little bit. Sheesh. Where's the... Oh, sorry, I'm getting tired now. Right, Sant Casa, there it is. Yeah, right, okay. I will show you a story while we have this rather atmospheric music in the background. Yes, got it, check this. Now, there's a great story just to finish up. I'd never heard of Saint Cast, sometimes spelt with a K, or Sandcast, like sandcastles, an easy way to remember it. You can read the full, it's against the Saxons really, it's quite amusing. But the point of the story is you'll see from here, in 1758 an English raid led by General Bligh was driven off in Sandcast by General Morel d'Aubigny. During the fight, a detachment of Welsh Highlanders had to face a company of Breton soldiers from Trégueux and Saint-Paul-de-Lyon. The Welsh happened to sing an anthem, the melody of which was popular in Brittany. The Bretons stopped and joined the Welsh in their song. The Welsh came to a stop too, and there was no use for the officers of both armies to give the orders to shoot in practically the same language. According to the present-day song, the British command considered this surge of brotherly feeling as a treason that caused them to order the retreat. No one's going to fight, we're off. So H. Corb stated in his short history of Breton music, published in the monthly magazine Gwalan, that the tune is identical with Rivelgwch Gwyr Glamorgan. This title, mixing up Welsh and English words, sounds like two popular Welsh songs. Aha, here's the music I was looking for. I hope it's somewhere. So we've got these different tunes here, and the one I quite liked. Alright, thank you very much for that one. Thank you. That was very nice, I'm sure, but this is the one I want to play. Right, so I shall say my goodbyes to this rather jolly tune. It's only a minute long. Arnie B, we're going to do our big song to finish. Our big finish. I've got a song here which I don't really know I'm going to play because I've had so many requests for them on I could play it by myself. I don't know it. I don't know it. You've heard me sing it loads of times, haven't you? Twice. I'm going to find the one I got with my there's nothing like the voice left up. I've got my tab open because I didn't want the words printed out now. I've got to find it with the proper thing. Anyway, there we go. Maybe it's too much for tonight. Perhaps I'll do it next time. Does anyone find that for singing? It doesn't look like. Oh, that's it. It was 1 minute long and it's finished. Right, okay. And I have to hope my guitar's in tune. This is going to be the finishing piece. If you want to join in, Arnie, you can. Everyone at home. It's an interesting song, this Yma O Byd, because again, it's a bit of a case of distorted Welsh history, really.
You must have knocked the plug or something.
Oh, it's always me, and you're the one touching it, not me.
Well, no, because this side's still plugged in fine. It's when
Can't believe you
moved
did
your
that,
foot,
Arnie.
it
Can't believe you're
doesn't-
going to play. Oh, God, did you hear that? Did you hear that? So take my leather to you.
Thick skulls moron.
Thick skull moron. Gee, God and Bella, but your kids today, isn't it? No, well, I'll learn you now. I'll learn you, but hang on. Right, so the story is here, because it's all in Welsh. I could have put the English up. You can look it up yourself. Yma O Byd. It's become huge. And the funny thing was, when I was looking for songs for the musical, which is still going to happen, I know because people consider it a very low form of art or whatever, but it's very popular. And I like musicals, so there. And it's, you think how many people know about the struggles in revolutionary France because of Les Miserables or Miss Saigon for revealing other things. Musicals get a good audience, you get a message across. And I like writing songs and singing songs. So anyway, so don't be so snobby, people. It'll be great, it'll be good fun. So this story here is a bit of a Welsh nationalist thing. One of the things I was looking for, the half-time interval, which Richard Evans, my GOG friend in North Wales, I put a request to come up with some steering thing in the middle, because in the second half of the musical, we can have the big battle where the young Arthur has to take on the Saxons, even though he's been betrayed all around him, which the audience know, but Arthur doesn't. So he's in a really bad spot, and he needs some support, and the audience are going to be providing that support by singing a bit of a Welsh song about Arthur and geeing him up. And Richard Evans has given me some great ideas, because did a search on on the internet, some good old Welsh traditional songs. I thought we could put an old Welsh song in there to make it interesting. And this Yma O Byd kept coming up, which I hadn't heard of, which I should have done. So it turns out it's very popular, and they sing it at the Cardiff City games. So it shows how long since I've been to a Cardiff City match. And they also do it for the Welsh football matches. And David Ewan wrote it, so it's not an old song, it's not ancient, it's quite new. And it's very Plaid Cymru, it's a bit political for my musical. But I think about 4 people this week have said, oh, this song has come up. So there's something in the air. It's interesting when like Mandy and Dean and a couple of others all said, do you know Yma O Byd? And I'm like, well, I funny enough, I have been learning it. So let's have a go, shall we? Everyone up for a sing-song? It's pretty much a sing-song type of song. Right, now there's a way of doing this. Hang on. I've got to get this, there's a speed setting on here, because I always play quicker than the thing does. Alright, it could be a couple of gaps here, I have to scroll down, okay? Right, like... I ti'n cofio Maxim, does neb hynny'n o'i lôn. Ni'n chwe cant y flynyddoedd, yn amser i'r co. Banaeth Maximus Gymru, Flyddrin 303. I can't do the guitar violin as well, can I? I know. I told you join on the second verse, right? Let me get my rhythm first, okay? Hang on, sorry. Arnie's a professional player and I'm not. This is the difference. I'm sorry, I couldn't keep my rhythm. I'm in trouble now. Dwy ti'n cofio Maxim, does never na'i nabo. Mae 1600 ffilmioedd, amser i'r co. Pan oedd Maximus Gymru yn flwyddyn 303, yn gadael ein genel gyfan, yn heddwch wel ni, rhin Yma O Byd. Yma O Byd. Gwaith na'r pawb a phobeth, gwaith na'r pawb a phobeth, gwaith na'r pawb a phobeth Yma O Byd. Fath yn y gwynt o'r dyrrain, rhywbeth a storm o'r môr. Halstead melt wybren. Gwaith y dalen o'n côr. Lily'r degraeth y gwanglon. Llafed y tai ag y llawn. Y diwedd i'r ffacti yn gwmpas. Rhin barod y doriad yr wawn. Rhin aml o hyd. Aml o hyd. Yr gwaith a'i pawb yr ffobeth. Yr gwaith a'r pawb yr ffobeth. Yr gwaith a'i pawb yr ffobeth. Rhin aml o'r hyd. Coefiol yn facs yn leni. Adael yn gwad yn y dan. Loen gerbon y gwely. Bydd fewn yn am y tîl fan. Yr gwaith a'i bob dig John David. Yr gwaith yr redfag i'r hiw. Bwrddon am y hyd ewyr amser. Yr byd yr iaith Gymraeg fel. Yr un hamar o hyd. Rhin hamar o hyd. Yr gwaith a'i pawb a phobeth. Yr gwaith a'i pawb a'r phobeth. Yr gwaith a'i pawb a'r phobeth. Rhin hamar o'r hyd. More together. Rhin hamar o hyd. Rhin hamar o hyd. Yr gwaith na'i pawb a'r phobeth. Yr gwaith na'i pawb a'r phobeth. Yr gwaith a'i pawb a'r phobeth. Rhin hamar o hyd. Whew! Oh, da iawn, Arnie Mark, da iawn. That was brilliant, eh? Yeah, well, we are. We should really rehearse beforehand. Well done. Right, I can't see any comments. I can't read anything. I don't know what's going on. Oh, wow. Is it really? It must be like, I don't know what, miles over time. And where's the channel so I can say goodnight to everybody? Fab Passion Ross, I hope everything. My dog is standing in the garden waiting till it's safe to come back in. Oh, I love Andrew's comments. Right, thank you all. Right, it's definitely, he's a good heart. There we are. Full points for effort, eh? Well done, Arnie. That was lovely. I like little fancy bits on there. We'll do that properly. I'll get you near to the microphone. Right, so thank you, everyone. We have to go now. It's super late. And feel energised now. All right. Right, don't whack the camera, all right? Show what you're going to do it with. Look at his arm. Look at this. My Boston Bruins hockey stick. Gee whiz. Right, like now no one's seeing me now. Ross could be a bard ace like I could be bard. I could be bloody awful. They're my bard, but I'm way past bard. Right, okay then. Like Arnie, try not to destroy that camera, as you say. North Star Pow. Good night, everybody. We'll see you all there soon. Loads of videos come up this week. Oh yeah, I meant to mention it. There's a whole stack of recorded videos all coming up this week. I won't go through them all again now. I'm going to say good night. Go to bed. Mindy Gwely, Pow, North Star, and peace. Heddwch. Oh, hang on, I'm going to find the button. Go on, right, yeah, Heddwch. I don't know if it worked or not. Yay!